Hello and welcome to Golden Age Wisdom, your trusted space for navigating the joys and challenges of our later years with grace and insight. Have you ever had that nagging feeling that maybe you're doing something that makes those around you a little uneasy? Something that quietly pushes people away, but no one actually dares to tell you. It's a tough thought to consider, isn't it? As we journey through life and gather more experience, we naturally settle into certain habits. Some of these habits are wonderful, comforting, wise, even charming. But others, well, they can become blind spots. Things we do without a second thought, perhaps thinking we're simply being ourselves. But the truth is, the people around us, our family, our friends, even casual acquaintances, they notice. And while they might stay silent, often out of politeness or fear of hurting our feelings, these habits can subtly affect how we're perceived and how connected we feel. In this video, we're going to gently pull back the curtain on 12 of these common yet rarely discussed behaviors. Now, when I say ugly, I'm not talking about physical appearance in any way. I'm referring to behaviors that over time can inadvertently wear down our dignity, create distance from loved ones, and chip away at the respect we've earned over a lifetime. Our goal here isn't to make anyone feel bad or judged. Far from it. It's about offering a gentle mirror for self-reflection. To ask ourselves, is this habit still serving me, or could it be unintentionally pushing people away? And here's the truly good news. Most of these habits are completely within our power to change. Awareness is the very first and most crucial step. So if you're ready to explore this with an open mind and a willingness to grow, stay with me. By the end of this video, you'll not only have a clear understanding of what to look out for, but also some practical ideas on how to carry yourself with even more confidence, clarity, and grace in these golden years. Because a few small shifts can make a world of difference in how others experience you, and more importantly, how you experience yourself. Let's begin. Number 1, neglecting personal hygiene. This can be a really sensitive one, but it's often the first thing people silently notice. We're not talking about major deliberate neglect. Often it's the accumulation of little things, perhaps clothes that look like they've been worn a few too many days in a row, hair that hasn't seen a brush recently, fingernails that are a bit too long, or a faint lingering body odor. These might seem like small details, but they can speak volumes to those around you. You see, personal hygiene isn't just about being clean. It's a reflection of how we value and care for ourselves. In our younger years, these routines are often automatic. But as we age, energy levels can dip, physical limitations might creep in, routines change, and sometimes a little voice might whisper, "What's the point anymore?" That shift in perspective, however subtle, is noticeable. Loved ones, especially younger family members, likely won't say anything directly because they don't want to embarrass you or hurt your feelings. They don't know how to bring it up. So instead, they might adjust their own behavior, perhaps sitting a little further away, shortening their visits, or hesitating to offer a hug. What they're reacting to isn't you as a person they love, but the unspoken message your self-care is sending. It can inadvertently signal that perhaps you've given up a bit or don't value yourself as much as you once did. And here's the part no one says out loud: when people perceive that we've stopped taking care of ourselves, they may unconsciously treat us with a little less warmth or respect. This isn't about needing to look like a movie star, but a fresh shirt, clean hair, and neatly trimmed nails go a long, long way. They communicate to the world, "I'm still here, I still care, I still respect myself, and I respect you too." Taking care of yourself quietly invites others to treat you with kindness, closeness, and dignity. Number 2, speaking without a filter. As we age, something interesting can happen. That little internal editor, the voice that used to whisper, "Maybe don't say that out loud," can get a bit quieter, or sometimes it seems to pack up and leave altogether. We might start speaking our minds more freely, perhaps even feeling a sense of pride in our forthrightness, thinking, "I've earned the right to say whatever I want." And then while that newfound freedom can feel liberating to us, the people on the receiving end might experience something quite different: discomfort. There's a very fine line between honesty and bluntness that can become harshness. If you find yourself saying things that make people pause, shift uncomfortably in their seats, or suddenly avoid eye contact, it might be a sign that your words are landing a bit too sharply. Perhaps you've caught yourself making rather direct remarks about someone's weight, their appearance, their relationship choices, or even how they're raising their children. You might brush it off with a chuckle saying, "I'm just being honest," or "Back in my day, we weren't so sensitive." But the reality is honesty without compassion can often just sound like criticism, and people rarely tell you that's how it feels. Instead, they might start to pull back. You might notice fewer invitations to gatherings or shorter phone calls. They still love you, but they're trying to protect themselves from the sting of what feel like careless or judgmental remarks. This doesn't mean you need to censor every thought or walk on eggshells, but it does suggest the value of a small pause before speaking. Ask yourself, is this helpful? Is this kind? Because sometimes what feels like speaking your truth is actually just venting frustration, and it can land much harder than you intend. A good rule of thumb, if you wouldn't want someone saying it to your own grandchild, perhaps reconsider saying it to someone else. The wisdom you carry is a beautiful thing. When it's wrapped in kindness, people lean in and listen. Number 3, wearing clothes that don't fit anymore or are significantly outdated. There's undeniable comfort in familiar routines. The same breakfast, the same walking path, and yes, the same clothes we've had for years. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with consistency. However, when it comes to our wardrobe, what once looked classic or felt comfortable can over time begin to look a bit careless if we're not mindful. You might not notice it yourself, but the way your clothes fit or don't can say a lot about how connected you feel to the present moment. Pants that hang too loosely, shirts that cling a little too tightly, styles that are clearly from a decade or two ago, or shoes that have long since lost their shape. These aren't just minor fashion choices. They can quietly send a message that perhaps you've stopped paying as much attention to your appearance or to how you present yourself to the world. And while no one is likely to comment on it directly, they do notice. This isn't about chasing fleeting trends or trying to dress like someone half your age. Not at all. It's about showing the world and yourself that you still see yourself as someone worth looking after, someone who takes pride in their presence. When people see an older adult in clothing that fits well, looks cared for, and reflects a sense of self-respect, it often evokes a feeling of admiration. It signals that this person still shows up in the world with dignity. Our bodies change over the years, our coloring might shift, and our personal style can evolve. Dressing in a way that reflects your current self, not just your past self, demonstrates emotional presence and self-awareness. Even simple upgrades like a well-fitting pair of jeans or a shirt in a color that brightens your complexion can change how people respond to you. Not because of the fabric, but because of what it represents, that you're still engaged, still aware, and still proud of who you are today. That first impression, even in our later years, still matters. Number 4, interrupting or dominating conversations. We all have a natural desire to be heard, and this can be especially true in our later years when we've accumulated a lifetime of experiences and insights. We know a thing or two, right? But sometimes in that eagerness to share our knowledge or ensure our point is clearly understood, we can inadvertently forget to leave space for others to speak. It might start subtly. You're in a conversation, someone mentions a topic you're familiar with, and you jump in with a story or an explanation of what they should do. Before you know it, several minutes have passed and no one else has had a chance to contribute. The tricky thing about this habit is that it often doesn't come from a bad place. Usually it's rooted in a genuine desire to help or to share valuable information. But the problem is, when we consistently take up too much conversational space, we can unintentionally silence the very people we care about, and they will rarely tell you that you're doing it. Instead, they might start to drift away, calling less often or keeping conversations brief. You might feel a distance but not quite understand why. People, especially younger adults or grandchildren, who might already feel a bit hesitant connecting across a generational gap, want to feel seen and heard, not lectured. When every conversation starts to feel like a one-way street, it can quietly erode the relationship. It's not about saying less necessarily, but about listening more. It's about allowing for pauses, asking more questions than you answer, and resisting that urge to jump in with advice unless it's specifically asked for. One of the most powerful things we can do in a conversation is to consciously hold back just enough to let others fully express themselves. The irony is, the less you dominate, the more people often seek your genuine input. Number 5, constantly complaining about kids these days, or criticizing younger generations. It often starts as a simple, fleeting observation. You see a teenager engrossed in their phone and think, "Back in my day, we actually talked to each other." Or you hear about a decision a younger adult is making and think they just don't understand how the real world works. Before you know it, these thoughts can start slipping out regularly in conversations. You may not realize the full impact, but when you frequently criticize younger generations, it sends a powerful and often damaging message. It can make your children, grandchildren, or other younger people around you feel that you're not interested in understanding their world, their challenges, or their perspectives. It can make them feel like you're stuck in a time that no longer exists. Now, here's an uncomfortable truth. Every generation tends to think the one coming up behind it is missing something. That's not new. But when that criticism becomes a default setting, it doesn't make you appear wise. It can make you seem bitter or out of touch. Even if you mean it as a lighthearted joke to those on the receiving end, especially those under 50, it often feels like a form of rejection, like you're dismissing their entire way of life. The result, they may stop opening up to you, keeping conversations light and avoiding deeper topics because they're bracing for judgment. This doesn't mean you have to agree with everything younger folks do or embrace every new trend, but it does mean choosing curiosity over criticism. Instead of saying, "These kids today have it so easy," try asking, "What's it like trying to find your way in the world today?" That simple shift can open doors to connection and dialogue rather than creating division. Your value comes from bridging generations, not from constantly highlighting the differences in a negative way. If you're finding these points resonating with you, or perhaps they're making you think, please let us know with a comment below. And if you haven't already, consider subscribing and clicking the bell so you don't miss out on more discussions like this. Your support truly helps us create content that informs and inspires. Number 6, ignoring modern etiquette. There's a certain social awareness, a kind of everyday politeness that often goes unnoticed until it's absent. This can include things like speaking very loudly on your phone, in public places standing uncomfortably close to people in line, or playing videos or music on your phone without headphones in a shared space, like a waiting room or on public transport. These might seem like small behaviors, but they can have a noticeable impact on how others perceive you. Decades ago, these things might not have been a big deal. Social norms were different, and perhaps people were more tolerant of louder conversations or less defined personal space. But times change, and so do expectations around public behavior. What used to be considered harmless can now make people quietly uncomfortable. The tricky part is, you may not even realize you're doing it. No one is likely to pull you aside and say, "Hey, could you please turn that down?" Or, "Do you mind giving a little more space?" Instead, you might get a quick glance, an averted gaze, or see someone subtly move to another seat. These little breaches of what many now consider common courtesy can send an unintended message: I'm not aware of how my actions affect others. Fortunately, this is one of the easiest habits to adjust. It simply requires a bit more awareness of our surroundings and the people in them. Notice how others behave in public spaces regarding volume, personal space, and technology use. Modern etiquette isn't about being uptight, it's about being considerate. It shows you're still tuned into the world and mindful of the comfort of others. Number 7, oversharing medical problems. We've all likely been in a group where the conversation eventually, and sometimes exclusively, turns to health issues. Who's got the worst knee, the highest blood pressure, or the most complicated medication schedule? While sharing our experiences, including health challenges, is a natural way to connect and find support, constantly dwelling on medical problems can slowly wear down the energy of those around you. Everyone understands that getting older often comes with physical challenges. There's no need to pretend everything is perfect. But when every conversation seems to circle back to what hurts, what the doctor said, or what the next surgical procedure is, it can make people feel like they're perpetually in a doctor's waiting room rather than in a reciprocal friendship or family relationship. This can be especially overwhelming for younger family members. They may not know how to respond, or they might feel helpless hearing about issues they can't fix. So instead of leaning in with empathy, they might subtly back away, not from a lack of care, but from a sense of quiet exhaustion or discomfort. You absolutely deserve empathy and to be heard when you're struggling. But when health issues become the centerpiece of how you relate to nearly everyone, it can shift the dynamic from connection to something that feels more like caretaking, from conversation to a list of complaints. Think about the people you most enjoy spending time with. Chances are they're not the ones who recite a litany of their ailments every time you meet. It doesn't mean hiding your struggles, but perhaps choosing your audience and timing more carefully and striving for balance. Share how you're doing, yes, but also make a point to ask about others and to talk about other interests. A good book, a new hobby, something interesting you observed. Your life is still full of many stories beyond medical charts. Number 8, being stubborn about outdated beliefs or resistant to new ideas. One of the hardest things to notice in ourselves, especially as we accumulate more years, is when our long-held beliefs start to feel more like impenetrable walls than open windows. We often hold on to ideas and principles that served us well in the past, principles that shaped our families, our careers, and our understanding of the world. And that's understandable. But if we're not careful, these beliefs can harden into absolutes that no longer quite fit the world we're living in today. You might find yourself saying things like, "That's just how it is," or "People are far too sensitive these days," or even dismissing new information with, "I don't care what the science says, I know what's right." While you may feel confident and secure in your views, what others, especially younger people, often hear is resistance or an unwillingness to engage with new perspectives. The world is constantly changing. Technology culture, social norms, our understanding of mental health, the ways we communicate, it's all evolving rapidly. When we dig our heels in and refuse to even consider another viewpoint, it doesn't always come across as wisdom. It can seem like an unwillingness to learn or adapt. Younger generations in particular notice this. They usually won't confront you directly, but they might quietly label you as someone they can't talk to about certain topics, someone who won't understand or doesn't want to. Staying open doesn't mean abandoning your core values. It means being willing to update your understanding to make room for new ideas, even if you don't ultimately agree with all of them. Often, stubbornness can mask a fear, perhaps a fear of losing relevance, or a fear that letting go of old beliefs means losing a piece of ourselves. But your relevance comes from how courageously you meet the present, not just how firmly you cling to the past. Number 9, walking or moving without awareness of your surroundings. As we age, our pace naturally changes. We might slow down a bit, feel less steady on our feet, or become more cautious with our steps. And that's perfectly normal and okay. However, what can sometimes happen without us realizing it is that we become less aware of how our physical presence and movements affect the people around us in shared spaces. You've probably seen it happen, someone standing right in the middle of a grocery aisle, perhaps with their cart positioned sideways, completely blocking the way while they scan a label. Or someone stopping abruptly in a busy walkway, lost in thought. Or a group walking slowly side by side, unintentionally drifting into the path of oncoming foot traffic. Most of the time, these actions happen without any ill intent. You're not trying to be inconsiderate. You're simply focused on your own task or thought. But to those around you, especially people who might be in a hurry or trying to navigate a crowded area, it can feel like a small, unnecessary friction point in their day. People rarely say anything directly. They might sigh, quietly maneuver around you, perhaps give a quick glance, and then carry on. But over time, if these small moments of unawareness become a pattern, they can contribute to how others perceive you, perhaps as someone who is always in the way. Slowing down is not the issue here. Awareness is. It's entirely possible to move slowly and still be respectful of the space and flow of people around you. This means things like keeping to one side in hallways or on sidewalks, stepping aside if you need to stop and look at something, and generally being mindful of not blocking pathways, especially in busy places like stores, airports, or even church hallways. This kind of spatial awareness is a subtle form of grace and consideration. Number 10, making jokes that don't age well or using insensitive humor. A good sense of humor is a treasure at any age. It keeps us light, helps others feel comfortable, and can ease tension in even the most challenging moments. But just like fashion or social norms, not all humor ages gracefully. Some jokes, especially those that might have gotten a laugh decades ago, can quietly push people away today. You might be joking in the same way you always have. A little bit of sarcasm, a teasing remark, Perhaps a comment that plays off old stereotypes about certain groups of people, or pokes fun at someone's background appearance or personal choices. You might even follow it up with, "I'm just messing with you," or "Come on, lighten up." But here's what's changed the world around you and often societal sensitivities. While humor in the past sometimes relied on poking fun at differences today, there's a much greater awareness of how words land, especially when they come from someone in a position of experience or seniority. Younger generations in particular are often navigating a culture that places a strong emphasis on inclusion, empathy, and respect for diverse experiences. When a joke feels out of step with these values, it doesn't come across as funny. It can seem disconnected, outdated, or worse, disrespectful. And once again, people probably won't tell you directly. They might offer a polite, uncomfortable laugh and then subtly avoid getting too close in future interactions. This doesn't mean humor is off limits or that you have to walk on eggshells, but it does suggest thinking twice. Ask yourself, is this joke funny because it's genuinely clever? Or is it funny because it subtly puts someone else down or relies on a stereotype? The best kind of humor, especially as we age, is the kind that lifts people up, brings lightness without discomfort, and shows you're evolving right along with the world. Being able to laugh at yourself, for instance, often builds instant connection. Number 11, acting helpless when you're not or over-relying on others. Getting older undeniably brings real challenges. There are things that used to be easy that now require more time, more care, or sometimes genuine help. No one is denying that. But there's a subtle difference between needing help and defaulting to it for things you could still manage, perhaps, with a bit more effort. And over time, that difference can become something people notice more than they'll ever say out loud. Maybe you've gotten into the habit of saying, "Oh, can you just do that for me?" Or, "I don't know how any of this newfangled stuff works, I'll just mess it up." At first, such requests might seem innocent enough. But when they become a consistent pattern, especially for tasks you are still capable of doing, they can quietly start to wear on the people around you. Family members might begin to feel more like caretakers than partners or companions, even when you're still perfectly able. Friends may notice they're always the ones lifting, reaching, fixing, or organizing. And though they might smile and say, "No problem," a little bit of resentment can quietly build. Sometimes this behavior isn't about laziness at all. It can be rooted in fear, fear of doing it wrong, fear of looking silly, or fear of not being able to keep up. So you let someone else step in. But with each small surrender of a task, you could do a little bit of independence can slip away. The truth is, people often admire effort more than perfection. They'd rather see you try and perhaps struggle a little than give up altogether. Asking for help only when you genuinely need it makes that assistance feel more valued and respected. Maintaining your agency isn't about pretending you're 30 again. It's about showing up with what you can do and asking clearly for what you can't. Number 12, pretending you're always right or needing to win every argument. After decades of life experience navigating hard choices and learning lessons, it's understandable to feel confident in our knowledge and perspectives. And in many cases, that confidence is well-earned. You do know a lot. But here's where it can get tricky when the need to be right overshadows the need to connect. People can stop listening. This might show up in small ways, consistently correcting someone's story during a dinner conversation, insisting that your way of doing a particular task is the only sensible way, rolling your eyes at new ideas, or brushing off someone else's opinion with a dismissive, "Trust me, I know better." At first, others might shrug it off or even laugh. But over time, being around someone who always has to be right, who treats every discussion like a debate to be won, becomes exhausting. People may start to avoid meaningful conversations with you. They might withhold their own thoughts or stop challenging your assertions, not because you've convinced them, but simply because it's easier to stay quiet. Often this behavior isn't driven by arrogance. It can be a way to feel safe or to maintain a sense of authority in a world that feels like it's changing very quickly. But when being right becomes more important than being kind, curious, or simply open to another person's perspective, it often backfires. True wisdom isn't just about having all the answers. It's about knowing when to offer your perspective and when to simply listen and allow someone else to explore theirs. The people we admire most aren't usually the ones who constantly correct us. They're the ones who listen, reflect, and perhaps gently invite us to think differently without forcing their views. When you stop trying to win every discussion, people often start coming to you, more valuing your calmly delivered insights. So there we have it, 12 habits that can sometimes creep into our lives as we get older, often unnoticed by us, but very much noticed by those around us. As we've gone through these, perhaps a few resonated with you, maybe one or two caught you by surprise, or perhaps you recognized a loved one in some of these descriptions. The purpose of this discussion, as I said at the beginning, was never to shame or criticize. It was to offer some honest insight wrapped in care, because these behaviors don't make anyone a bad person. They are often just blind spots, things that can settle in over time. The real strength at any age comes not from pretending these blind spots don't exist, but from having the courage to acknowledge them and say, I see that. I can do a little better. I still have the power to grow and adapt. That truly is what aging well is all about. It's not about clinging rigidly to the past or resisting change, but about stepping into each new day with self-awareness, grace, and that quiet strength that comes from wanting to connect, to evolve, and to continue being a source of warmth and positivity in other people's lives. Keep these points in mind, not as a checklist for self-criticism, but as gentle reminders, ways to keep showing up in the world with the dignity, presence, and kindness that leaves others feeling respected, comfortable, and perhaps even inspired. It's never too late to make small shifts in how we speak, listen, present ourselves, or interact with others. Those small changes can absolutely transform how people experience you, and just as importantly, how you experience your own valuable place in the world. Thank you so much for joining us today on Golden Age Wisdom. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Please leave a comment below and share one thing you learned or that resonated with you today, and perhaps how you might plan to use that insight in your own life. Your experiences and reflections are so important to us and to this community. If you found this video helpful, please give it a like, subscribe to our channel for more content designed to inform and inspire you, and perhaps share it with someone who might benefit. Thanks for watching, and we look forward to seeing you in the next video. Take good care.